William Kenneth Ritter was born on August 28, 1924, in Louisville, near what is now Louisville International Airport. When he was just a little guy, the Depression hit, and in 1929 he moved with his parents from his birth home to his grandparents' small farm in rural Kentucky. The family lived in the chicken coop located at the back of the house. Ken would reminisce, "It's hard to see how my parents survived taking care of kids. My grandfather's 50-acre farm wouldn't grow a peanut, but we raised all we ate." Every so often, someone would give the family a pig. Because there was no refrigeration, the meat from the pig would be preserved by heavily salting it. Ken admitted he's never been fond of salt pork. Ken's grandparents' farm was located on the grounds of what now is Mammoth Cave National Park, established in 1941. Eventually, the farm and acreage were purchased for the park, and in 1939, Ken's parents bought their own farm in Cave City, Kentucky, about 6 miles away. On this land was a 5-acre tract of big trees. 15-year-old Ken and his dad regarded the trees as the needed lumber to build a house for the family, now bursting at the seams with 7 children. Ken was pretty sure he had 6 siblings, something like that, he said. Together they cut down trees, made them into planks at the sawmill, and invited the neighbors to a house raising. It took 3 weekends to construct the home, which is still standing and functioning today. Ken's growing up years were spent mostly in one-room schoolhouses that he and his siblings walked to every day. He attended several different schools. Over time, he grew tired of school, where he often felt like an outsider, and he quit. He was handy with his hands, so after a while he enrolled in trade schools in Louisville and then in Dayton, Ohio, to become a machinist. World War II interrupted, and he was drafted for service in the Army while in school in Dayton. For some reason, he doesn't remember why, he wasn't to become a soldier. So he went back home to work on the farm and deliver groceries, driving an A model Ford. Ken was only 18 years old. It happened that trains ran on a track right behind the grocery store where he worked, and one day he and a railroad worker started swapping stories. When the man heard about Ken's training and skills, he asked, "Why are you working here?" Ken began wondering the same thing, so he soon found work in Louisville at L&N Machine Shop as a machinist helper. He described that stint as the greatest, dirtiest job he's ever had. Ken said, "Men would just wear their clothes until they fell off them, never washing them. I tried it there for 6 or 8 months." He quit, then quickly found work at DuPont's Louisville plant in the machine shop. At that time, DuPont was making rubber for the war effort. Ken lasted about 2 years before he was laid off due to servicemen returning home to claim their former jobs. He worked a short time in a couple of other shops, including International Harvester, but was finally called back to DuPont, where he then worked for 36 years, retiring in 1982. Something very important happened during those first 2 years at DuPont. He met his wife, Geraldine, or Jerry as she was called. She was working there as a guard. Ken said, "I thought she was a pretty little girl." One night they found themselves in the cafeteria together, and once they started talking, they kept talking. After those initial chats, they kept in touch by phone, began dating, and they were married in January 1947 at the Justice of the Peace in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Ken's aunt was planning to marry around the same time, so it became a double wedding, with Ken standing up for his aunt and his aunt standing up for him and Jerry. The new Mr. and Mrs. Ritter began their married life, which spanned 50 years, in an apartment in Louisville. The couple built a 2-bedroom house in 1949 to accommodate their growing family. Their marriage produced 3 sons, Kenneth, Leon, and Robert. Kenny was born in 1950. Lee came along 2 years later, and Robert arrived in 1957. Ken now has 8 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren, most of whom still live in the area. Ken lived in a 2-story sprawling home in Sellersburg, Indiana. He and Jerry bought this residence with his mother-in-law in 1988 when they were empty nesters. With Ken's many handyman skills, the house was remodeled into a duplex with a full apartment upstairs and another large living space downstairs. The home had a woman's touch for sure. Among other details, pretty curtains outline the windows, the comfortable couch with inviting throw pillows, a lovely lantern placed in the center of the wood dining table, a gift from Catherine. Ken's own contribution to the decor was lots and lots of collectibles. He was especially fond of cookie jars. Everywhere one looks, there are cookie jars lining shelves, bookcases, on the counters, the microwave, the refrigerator, sometimes 2 or 3 deep. He had more than 250 cookie jars and would buy more, but only if the price was right and it was not a duplicate. Ken, Jerry, and Jerry's mom lived together in the Sellersburg home for a number of years until his mother-in-law became unable to care for herself and began doing things that had the potential to, as Ken would say, blow the house down. She finished her days in a nursing home on Potter's Lane in New Albany, dying about a year before her daughter. Ken and Jerry observed their 50th wedding anniversary in style by celebrating with family and friends. This was in January, and in March of that same year, 1997, Jerry suffered an unexpected stroke. She died 2 days later, leaving a huge void in Ken's life. While Jerry was irreplaceable to Ken, in good time, God gave him Catherine to help heal his broken heart. Very good friendships can do that. The way Ken and Catherine met is a story in and of itself. After his retirement, Ken worked off and on for about 10 years at a used car lot in Jeffersonville, doing whatever needed to be done, carpentry, wiring, and more. The business belonged to Ken's brother. Jerry also worked there. One of Jerry's jobs was to deal with car titles. Whenever Jerry got stuck or just needed help with the paperwork, Ken took her to the BMV in Sellersburg, and it was Catherine, an employee there, who would always provide the needed assistance. She was kind and knowledgeable. Some years later, in the fall of the year of Jerry's death, Ken needed help with some paperwork. He remembered Catherine. The two became fast friends and developed a mutually beneficial relationship regarding the practical side of life. He replaced some lights, rewired her garage, and put in extra outlets in her home. She helped him with this and that, made dinner sometimes, spaghetti once a week with a glass of Ken's homemade blackberry wine, and joined him on garage sale outings on the weekends. They enjoyed each other's companies for 17 years. The couple talked about marriage, but decided that things worked best the way they were. They loved one another just the same. Which takes us full circle back to where this story starts, with the way it is today. Ken Ritter celebrated his 92nd birthday on Sunday, August 28th, with a family gathering hosted by his granddaughter.